Alright, welcome to this Bookopoly vlog. We are starting on September 3rd. I wanted to start on September 1st. It didn't happen. August 31st was my birthday and I was done on September 1st. I just laid in bed all day, went to bed at like 6, and honestly have just been recovering ever since. If you don't know what I'm talking about for some reason, I'll leave Becca's video down below where she explains all the rules of Bookopoly. But basically it's a readathon where you let a Monopoly board choose your reading for the month. I've decided I'm going to do 3 rolls each week. I did my first 3 rolls in my TBR video. I originally messed up all those rolls, but I did fix it. I can't count, apparently. But regardless, I got a book with text or pattern on the cover, and I chose My Best Friend's Exorcism by Grady Hendrix. I got a color wheel randomizer and I got blue for that, so I chose Barbarian Mine by Dixon because there are about 18 different types of blue on that cover, so I feel like I'm covered there. And I also got something with my favorite trope. And one of the tropes I love is when people end up on an island and they start dying one by one. So I chose You're So Dead by Parsons for that. As I mentioned, I haven't been doing a lot of reading, but I have started a little bit. I literally read like 1 chapter of the Grady Hendrix book, 1 chapter of the Parsons book, and I think I'm about 20% through Barbarian Mine. Truly all over the place. I'm hoping to get some reading done today. I would love to finish a book today. I would love to finish 2 books today, but that seems a little ambitious. I definitely think I could get a good chunk of You're So Dead by Parsons done today. That book is about a group of girls who go to this like fire festival type thing and they start dying one by one. I have this on audiobook, and like I said, I listened to 1 chapter and it was very like tongue-in-cheek, poking fun, over the top, pretty campy, and I very much like that vibe because I think if you're gonna do something like this, you can't take it seriously, and that's exactly what I wanted. So I think because I have that on audiobook, I think I could fly through a good amount of that today. I also think I could maybe finish Barbarian Mine today. It is really short. So this is the 4th book in the Ice Planet Barbarian series by Dixon. I've read the first 3 and I've definitely had varying levels of success. This is basically alien smut. I think that the books very much rely on whether or not you like the characters in that particular novel, and it also relies on if you like their like 1 personality trait, because it very much feels like each character has like 1 defining thing about them. So I really enjoyed book 2 because the main character was very sarcastic and combative almost with her love interest, and they just had this really fun back and forth, and I laughed throughout the whole book, so it was just like probably the best one for me so far. Whereas in the 3rd book, it had a lot to do with fertility, and that's not my vibe. Not something I enjoy. So that one I enjoyed a lot less. This one, I swear this one must be shorter because, like I said, I'm already 20% of the way through, and I feel like I read for like half an hour. So far, it reminds me a lot of the 1st book because our main character has been kind of knocked over the head and dragged back to this cave by this alien who has been living alone his whole life. He literally doesn't even know how to speak to her in his own language because he has been kept away from every other person. That's really all that's happened so far. They did do a little bit of a time jump, like just like a week forward in time, so we got to skip out on the like teaching themselves how to communicate a little bit, which I'm glad about because I don't really want to retread the same territory as book 1. So we'll see where this one goes. I honestly have no idea what the storyline in this one is supposed to be. I'd like to get some more editing done today, so I'm probably gonna focus on that. It's a long weekend and it's muggy as fuck out, so I'm probably just gonna stay in with the cool air coming from the fan and hope for the best. Hopefully I can go outside tomorrow when it's less sweaty out. It's been 2 days and I've finished several books. The first one that I tackled was You're So Dead by Ash Parsons, which I picked for favorite trope because it had the trope of people going to an island and dying one by one. I loved the first chapter of this. It had everything I wanted. It was just very over the top, very campy. The rest of the book wasn't like that, unfortunately, and so I didn't enjoy it nearly as much. It took the characters a lot more seriously than I was expecting it to. Now this revolved around this girl who decides to steal her sister's ticket to this like fake fire festival, except it's called Pyre in the book. Her sister is this massive influencer, and she has always felt really left behind, like no one cares about her like they do her sister, and she wants to have a fun adventure like her sister gets to have, and she doesn't. So she takes her friends along with her, goes to this festival, and ends up meeting all these other influencers, and that part of the book was kind of fun because all the influencers were very ridiculous, and that felt a little more campy. So there was a guy who got famous for saving a chicken or something, or saving a rooster from drowning, and now he just like travels the world with his rooster. There was a girl who was very clearly based off of Gun Girl from like that Kent State thing. Who else was there? There was a beauty influencer and a couple different gamer influencer types. It was interesting, but it definitely like lost all of its appeal to me as it went on. I read a lot of like indie horror books, like The Venue by TJ Payne and The Forgotten Island by David Sodergren. Those are two that I read last year that had this certain campy satire quality to them, and if this was in the hands of someone like that, I feel like I really could have enjoyed this. Or if this was done by someone like Chuck Palahniuk, whose writing I don't necessarily love, but he's very scathing with his satire, I feel like this could be fun. But because this was a young adult book, this just ended up being so mediocre. I ended up giving it 2 stars and didn't love it. Now the thing I did love was My Best Friend's Exorcism by Grady Hendrix. This was just as good as everyone says it was. I was not sure because I read The Final Girl Support Group by Grady Hendrix and really didn't jive with it, but this was delightful from beginning to end. Grady Hendrix does such a good job right off the bat of making you connect to these characters and making you understand their bond. He very, very quickly shows you like all these moments throughout their friendship in a way that feels natural, and they're not the big moments, you know, they're the inside jokes. It shows the way they came together as friends and just like all the things they've shared over the years. I just feel like it established it so well. So when things start going wrong, you really understand why the main character is willing to go to such lengths to save her friend. And I will say, I wasn't expecting it to be as serious as it was. I was expecting like a full-on comedy. The way the first half of the book is set up, I really, really like. You really do have to wonder at first whether this is some sort of possession story or whether it's just a teen girl who's in trouble. Because there are definitely moments at the beginning where you think she was probably sexually assaulted. There's also some abuse going on at her home, and so you really do just wonder if it's that trauma that's affecting her this way. But then of course, obviously, it's a horror novel, it's right there in the title, you've seen this cover. It does get more humorous in the second half when we're dealing with the actual possession storyline. I just really, really loved it. I thought it was such a heartwarming take at the end. They took so many of the little tropes that you see in possession stories because like I love The Exorcist, my all-time favorite horror movie. And so seeing just like the little things about her house being cold and stuff, just stuff like that, and then seeing the exorcism scene itself and the way they kind of twisted that to really focus on the things that the main character believed in. It was so sweet. What a great tale of female friendship, and I loved every second of it. Those were my first 2 books done from Bookopoly. I've not finished Barbarian mine. I think I'm only like 30% into it, so like I'm not even close. But 2 out of 3 Bookopoly books being done in day 3 of reading. I mean, it's actually September 5th, but I didn't start until September 3rd, so I feel pretty good about that. I do need to start on all my Spooky Smart B-tch reads. I have not touched a single one of them. I think I'm going to start with Camp Slaughter by Sergio Gomez because I have that out from Kindle Unlimited. In other like random reads, I finished Local Woman Missing by Mary Kubica, which I've read from her before with, I can't remember what it was, Good Girl? Something like that. And I really liked that book, but I also read that like 10 years ago. So I decided to try out Local Woman Missing with one of my friends because she wanted to read it, so we buddy read it and did not like it. Did not like it whatsoever. It was enjoyable for a time, but like the ending is batshit and not in a fun way, in a way that comes out of nowhere and doesn't make sense with any of the characters, and yeah, was not a fan. That's just kind of a, well, what the title suggests, there are people missing and a lot of things that may or may not tie in together. Now I'm listening to Loot, which I have an arc of, and I'm about 20% into that, and I am enjoying that so far. It has that Wicker Man sort of thing where it's like creepy community. This one day where there's some sort of sacrifice and then the rest of town is like bountiful for the rest of the year. I don't love the Wicker Man, but I do like the idea of the Wicker Man, so this could work for me. Okay, my battery's gonna die. I just filmed a dark romance recommendation video, so yeah, my battery is almost dead. Alright, in terms of reading, I am incapable of sticking to my TBR. I don't know what is wrong with me. I have bounced around on everything today. I finished Loot. I think I've ended it on like 3.5 stars. I really liked the overall tone. I liked the message, or not the message, but I guess the arc of the story I really enjoyed. The main character was annoying as fuck. The way she just absolutely hated this tradition. Have I explained what this is about? Basically, every 7 years, 7 people die. And basically that allows them to live on this perfect island. Now, this woman has moved there with her husband, and she's been there now for 6 years, so she's never seen the tithing day before, and so she just simply doesn't believe in it. She thinks it's all folklore. Her husband is like royalty on the island. They are very much looked upon as the founding family or something. He has a lot of trauma associated with the day, and the way she reacts to him and this day when it finally comes about is so fucking annoying, because I'm like, it's 24 hours. Can you just sit down and do what your husband says? And I'm not usually that girl who's just like, oh my god, sit down and listen to your husband. But with this, I was like, it's one day every 7 years. But she thinks it's all superstition, that he's acting like an idiot. Once again, like, his father died on this day, so even if he is, maybe just chill. And then eventually when things start happening, she like changes her entire mindset so quickly, and all of a sudden not only does she believe in the day, but she is gung-ho about it. Like, she is queen of the tithing day. It's kind of a lot. I do think there's something to be said for like privilege, because he is the royalty of the island. He kind of takes advantage of all the benefits of this tithing day while not at all wanting to participate in it himself. And I think that idea is interesting. I didn't like that there was kind of a romance shoved in here that was half-baked. I think it would make a better movie than a book, honestly. I kind of talked a lot about it just now for a book that wasn't on my TBR, so. Moving on, I started a podcast about a cult. I started Force of Nature, which is the second book in the Aaron Falk story by Jane Harper. Wasn't on my TBR. And then I also started The Deep by Nick Cutter, which was also not on my TBR, but I figured at least it's horror, so that kind of goes with the Spooky Smart B-tch readathon. I don't know if I can finish The Deep though. Like, I'm 2 hours into it, and there was just an entire chapter about how fat the main character's mother was. And this was not a short chapter. This went on for so long, he could not finish a single sentence without talking about how fat his mother is. The word lard was used so many times. And you know, I get that she was like a horrible person who treated him terribly or something, but just the weird emphasis that was put on her fatness was not fun. Like, even your mother isn't exempt from your weird body judgments. It was, I don't understand why horror authors always do this. Yes, the scariest thing. A woman who's fat. I did get a little farther in Barbarian Alien. I think I'm over halfway now. Basically, our main character has gotten sick, and so now they have to go back to the tribe. And because he has never met any other human beings, the love interest is kind of freaking out. That's about it. Dixon really likes a good eating out scene. I feel like the defining characteristic of these aliens has been their love of going down on a woman. So I finished Barbarian Mine. I gave it 3 stars. The only book I've really liked in the series so far is the second book. The rest have just all been a little bit too similar to each other. And I think I'm realizing too that because this tribe is so small and the rest of this planet is like decimated, like they are pretty much it, I just don't know where this series has to go really. Like all I want is for this world to be expanded more. But it can't be really. Unless some other type of being comes from other planets onto their planet, it can't really be expanded that much. Or unless they decide to travel somewhere, and I kind of don't think that's where this is going. It just feels kind of like I'm hearing the same story over and over again. I gave it 3 stars, it was fine. I'm probably gonna keep reading the series just like when I'm bored, but I'm not like over the moon in love with it. But what that does mean is that I finished all 3 books that were on my Bookopoly week 1 TBR. So that's great. Feeling awesome about it. Not feeling awesome about my Spooky Smart B-tch TBR though. I finally started a book, so that's something. I started Camp Slaughter. I think I'm about 1/3 of the way through it. I'm honestly not loving it either. It starts off with a prologue that I like. There's a couple who are trying to like spice up their marriage. They go away to this cabin and somebody breaks into this cabin and murders the husband, and you kind of don't know what happens to the wife. You find out a little later on. I liked it. It felt very Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but then it went into the rest of the novel and there were just so many perspectives. It's like every new chapter I have to reorient myself into like who we're talking about, because there's this paranormal investigative team, then there's these college kids who are going away for this summer vacation weekend at this cabin. And then there's the perspective of the killer. Then we also get the perspective of the wife from the prologue. It feels like there's a lot, and I'm not good at keeping track of it all right this instant. And I do realize that that is part of slashers, is that there are always a lot of characters because you need characters to die. But unfortunately, it's not working for me right now. And this is a very short book, so I don't know if it ever will, but we'll see. It's the 8th right now, I think. Yeah, it's the 8th. So, this readathon ends in 2 days, and I still have 5.5 books to read. I'm not feeling great about it. I also need to do my rolls for the second week of Bookopoly, so we're gonna go do that now. And then I guess this will be the end of vlog 1. I'll end it with the Bookopoly rolls. And then we'll choose the books at the beginning of my next vlog. I think that makes sense. So yeah, if we're looking at the scoreboard of where I am, I did in fact complete all 3 of my Bookopoly TBR. I just did not do very well with the Spooky Smart B-tch prompts. But we will see how I finish that readathon in next week's vlog. And in terms of like the other books I've picked up, the random ones, I DNF'd The Deep by Nick Cutter. I got about 60% of the way through it, so like that's far for me. I don't usually read that far to just DNF. I would normally just push through, but I don't think Nick Cutter's for me. This is the second book that I've read from him, and in both books I feel like he just makes weird choices. Or not weird choices. He goes for the more psychological stuff, which normally I like, but I just don't think that's his strong suit. I think he does better with body horror, and so I wish that's what he would stick to. And The Deep has spent a lot of time in dreams and hallucinations, and it's just not for me. Okay, so my summary for week 1 was, for text were patterned on the cover, I read my best friend's Exorcism and gave it 5 stars. For my favorite trope, which was like people dying one by one on an island, I picked You're So Dead by Ash Parsons and gave that 2 stars. And Barbarian Mine by Ruby Dixon, which was for the color wheel prompt, which I got indigo, and I gave that book 3 stars. Alright, I am starting on the correct space after I fixed my fuck up. So let's do my first of 3 rolls for the second week of Bookopoly. 11. Winter. Doable. Second roll. 10. Don't know if you can see that because it rolled off, but it's 10. Which will mean I will get to spring. Alright, and third roll. 8. 1, 2, 3, 4. Published between 2000 and 2019. And no doubles. I hope you liked this video, and I hope you come back for the next one. Bye.